Okay, good morning, Lance. Henry McClure today, broadcasting from Topeka, Kansas, down at the Shunga Trail. I'm going to give this a shot of taking your idea and posting up a concept for the book I'm writing about my dad. For your friend, you know, Lance is my publisher. I'm looking forward to your encouragement, and I've appreciated the self-discipline you've tried to instill in me to get this book going, but I ramble. So today's topic about, and we'll just tell people right now, the current title for my book is The Lawyer's Lawyer, but Not the Dad's Dad. And the first chapter is really the day I met my dad. And I've given Lance some writings about, kind of as an adult, really the day I met my dad, and the coincidences of how our lives are tied together through threads. But today's topic, as I walk and think about some of the things that have been going on in my life, the word spite. The word spite comes up. And spite is it's a real negative. And I think about how parents and divorced parents spite their exes through how they treat their children, and how they treat themselves. And like my dad, and a little background real quick. So my dad's best friend took his wife away from him, and to spite everybody, my dad was going to prove that he was happy. You know, he remarried right away, and they actually called their house. I mean, they had a sign, and I actually think they answered the phone. The Happy House. Look, in spite of everything going on, I want you to know we're happy. And how long did spite control their actions? Was it their whole life? When did spite go away? How does spite fizzle out? How do you stop being spiteful? Should there be a support group? Spiders Anonymous. Oh, and that's a whole other thing too. Everything has to quit being done anonymously. You gotta do it. Put your name to it. Don't be living life anonymously to spite everybody, to spite yourself. But anyway, so back to spite and how it relates to my upbringing, and so it's like the holidays become spiteful. Okay, we're gonna have 2 Thanksgivings to spite the other. We're gonna have, you know, 2 Christmases to spite the other. I'm gonna get, you know, this person this gift to be spiteful because maybe I've got more resources at the point. I'm gonna be spiteful in my gift giving. So, spite. So don't raise your children with spite. If you're divorced, you know, don't be spiteful to your ex and your actions. And I see it today with some of the relationships that I have with people. How narcissistic sociopaths can be spiteful to their exes by the way they treat their children. You know, I I always wanted to be the best ex-husband for my wife that I could ever be, because I had, you know, I didn't want my daughter to grow up, you know, with that conflict forever. Okay, yeah, we had conflict, and that's why we got divorced. We never pulled together as a team. And I actually think that sometimes I stayed married longer to her to spite her. You know, did I stay in that relationship and that marriage just to spite her? Hey, look, I'm so stubborn, I'm not leaving. So I think that the concept of writing or verbalizing or videoing, you know, the self-awareness it's a fun metamorphosis. And this self-awareness really helps. It helps, it's enlightening, and it helps spite go away. So, Mr. Lance, we're going to have to get our videographer to start taking these tidbits and these video shows, and she's going to have to articulate some of these into paper, or we're just going to piece all these video clips together for my book, The Dad's Dad, But Not the Lawyer's Lawyer. Shit, maybe we got my book, The Dad's Dad, or the developer's developer, but not the dad's dad. Shit, I don't know. Where were we going that? Oh yeah, The Lawyer's Lawyer, But Not the Dad's Dad. That's my dad's book. But I'm sure as hell convinced through these ramblings we'll come up with the Henry McClure book. I've also had a few people comment that they want to have some input into that book. But we're get back on task here, and we're talking about spite. And spite as it relates to your relationships, spite as it relates to your life. So I saw a lot of spite growing up with the angst my dad had over the divorce. And, you know, my mom and stepdad, they weren't, I'm not so sure, you know, I think really you could spite, we'll get into their spite later. Maybe, and they're a whole different book. But, spite was on my mind. Someone special in my life. Today, I see how they live their lives, you know, with their divorce. It's really kind of, it just brings back memories of my mom and dad's divorce. So Dad and Mom divorced when I was 3. They lived in the same town of Topeka, Kansas their whole life. And to spite each other, I only saw them together maybe 5 or 6 times in my life in the same room. And that's a hell of a lot of spite. And what was really interesting was my dad, watching my dad around my mom, and watching my mom around my dad. You could tell, you could really see the love that they had between them. And over time, you know, they had completely 2 different lives with their spouses. There was the first life that produced me. You know, they adopted 3 kids, had me. You know, it's like, okay, for some reason I'm not giving you kids. Despite that, I'm going to adopt kids. Were my adopted brothers and sisters brought in out of spite. Well, that's something I never thought about. I mean, my dad would throw kids at my mom. My mom loved children. And to spite their efforts, because, you know, I asked them, you know me, I like talking about sex all the time. And, you know, because I was asking Mom and Dad, hey, are you giving it a shot? Are you out there, you know, were you giving it the old college try? You know, my dad admitted to me that, and this is actually, no, actually it was Mom. Mom had talked to me about this in her last years, that, and I think Dad also actually confirmed this, that when Dad came back from World War II, you know, the first thing he wanted to do was get checked out. Because not only was he flying the hump in India, I think he was doing some hump. But, you know, this is a guy that trained to drop the atom bomb. This is a guy that saw Tokyo burning. This is a guy that dropped bombs all over Japan. You know, this is a guy that went out in his B-29 and wasn't sure he was ever going to come home. You know, every flight might have been your last flight. And it's really hard to hold that against the guy if he's, you know, he's off in India, and come on, you know where that's going. And tell me anything stronger than the love energy. Tell me what feels better than having sex. I mean, yeah, it's great. It's great to make love and have sex with somebody you really love, and that component can be awesome. And, you know, and I think that's one of the things that people in relationships, you know, that's what you probably miss the most. It's like, man, I wish we could have got along, because I loved having those moments with you so much. We should continue to have those moments. And, you know, hell, you know, sex is a very important part of life. I mean, okay, so it makes the world go round. But spite. Back to spite. So today, and I think this book to me is to say, okay, I've got a 20-year-old daughter, and I'm not done being a parent. And despite where I'm at and everything, I gotta, you know, I can't blame anybody. I can't blame my parents. Can't blame the liquor store. You know, there's nobody to blame today from now on if I'm a bad parent. And were my mom and dad bad parents? You know, I think Mom, and maybe through this book, maybe through writing this book, I can come to that conclusion whether Dad was a bad parent. You know, I'm not there today. I can't see it, because I can't come to that assumption. If I did today, that might be spiteful, coming to that conclusion too early. Well, Lance, we're coming on 15 minutes and 50 seconds. The whole concept of you wanted me to type for 15 minutes and maybe video for 15 minutes is the same thing. So Lance watched the broadcast despite the length. But I do somehow, some way want to continue this book. But hey, I'm going to finish this book despite myself. That's kind of funny. I've had a long trip and an eye-opening trip through Colorado, retracing some steps. And actually, what's more fun is kind of retracing some of my business acumen. You know, one of the best things that I did for the Macerich Company as a leasing guy was got off my ass, got out from behind the desk, and went out and met people and knocked on doors and cold called. And I had a great experience just doing what I'm good at, and that's meeting new people, covering new ground. You know, in today's real estate industry, it's not a matter of teaching, you know, the old dogs new tricks. It's a matter of teaching the young dogs old tricks. So what's interesting, what I'm finding now at the crossroads in my life is the guys in my business that are successful, they're the ones that know the new tricks. The power of the social media. You know, I can send out one tweet on one of my pages, you know, tweet one of my blogs or whatever. And at the end of the day, have 200 and some people look at it. Well, I got a listing, or I just got an assignment because some guy Googled Topeka real estate and came up with me. So the young dogs that are out there in the real estate business that don't know the old tricks, that you got to get off your ass and go meet people. You know, Mace always said, use the phone to make appointments, not deals. Well, I've rambled on enough here. I've broadcast. I'm going to finish my walk. Henry McClure reporting to Lance Powell, my trusted publisher, mentor, and guide to my literary future.